It is the second model introduced in the 2025 Grendizer U collaboration with Meteorot S, sporting the likeness of the mysterious silver super robots in the series of the name Zeora-Dizer. It is GDU01 Zeora-D, with a kit of Panic, Suction Blow, Hyper Tornado, Biped Legs, and the leg ability of High Fly, which buffs all leg stats, minus armor and heavy limit, by 30 to 32%, but at the cost, you take times 2.5 more damage from incoming gravity attacks. Now, compared to Gren-D, who sported two brand new abilities to grace the beginning of the collaboration, Zeora-D is only introducing one, but also does so with a very powerful and diverse interruption-based coverage kit, with the kind of skills that it brings to the table, between being able to stun or slip foes to pull them up closer to him, or even stop them in powerful cyclones. There really is no force of nature that Zeora R has at its disposal that can't be very easily or immediately used. Panic on the head part is a shooting type skill that, when activated, has twofold type of conditions based on how you attack the target. If you attack a target that is running toward you in their heat phase, Panic acts as Slip, which will cause the target to instantly forget their next action, auto-cancel it, and begin their cooldown phase right where you catch them. So if you catch someone just barely at the command line and manage to outrun them long enough to throw them into Panic, you essentially force them into a free turn skip and bot yourself just a couple extra seconds. Alternatively, if you attack a foe in cooldown instead, Panic will instead serve as Metaforce Seal, which will prevent the foe from being able to unleash Metaforce of any capacity. Now, they can still charge it, but they can't unleash it for a last-ditch Super Nuke. Additionally, Metaforce Seal also has the ability to cancel and negate the ability for meta-changed models to transform. So if you manage to catch, say, a meta-changed shield in their cooldown or something similar, well, guess what? Now they can't transform anymore as long as they have that ailment in place. Suction Blow on the right arm, and the only new skill that Zeora-D is bringing to the field, is more or less just kind of a melee version of Suction, which essentially, upon attacking the target, will pull them closer to the command line and ultimately closer to Zeora-D in this case. This is mostly good for crowd control, as if you catch somebody at the beginning of their cooldown phase, you're essentially able to stall their cooldown and kind of keep it going as long as you can. Alternatively, if you catch a foe at the beginning of their heat phase instead, this may accidentally accelerate their heat phase and basically guarantee they take their next turn immediately without any prompt or before anyone else takes their turn. Hyper Tornado on the left arm is an ailment-based shooting skill that, upon attacking the target, will subdue them in an enclosed and very small tornado. While in this tornado state, they are unable to dodge or defend, but their leg type also is temporarily transformed into flight, which means that they gain an anti-air weakness as long as this remains in effect. The other perk to Hyper Tornado, Hyper Tornado in this case though, is the fact that because of the Hyper, it will be hitting notably harder. At a base power of 1453, that already kind of speaks for itself as to how powerful it is, and the ability that it can deal pierce damage, which regular Tornado cannot, at the cost that you're not able to dodge or defend in your cooldown. So while this does leave you wide open, having a cooldown at almost 800 does kind of comp this to a degree, as it means that Zeora-D is able to kind of run back in his cooldown without getting punished too quickly, unless someone's already targeting him and already planning to kind of punish him for it. Biped Legs means that Zeora-D will have relatively solid coverage across all terrains and a very solid diversity, without any real drawback or penalty. But the cost isn't really the fact that he has rather mid-looking or rather solid-looking numbers, but the fact of High Fly, which I will get to in just a minute. But looking at his base numbers, he's looking at a base mobility of 909, which is actually very, very good as a base number before any other modifiers kick in. So he's already got speed at its very healthy advantage there. An evade of 1142 is also very nice, as this means he can dodge or graze relatively consistently without any real penalty to that degree. A melee resist of 691 unfortunately is really not all that great though, as this means he will most certainly be hurting when fighting anybody up close and personal in his face. But a shoot resist of 820 unfortunately really isn't all that great either, as it means that whether he's fighting anyone from afar or up close, he's gonna be kinda hurting overall. But I should also clarify and correct myself at saying that these are his base numbers. If you consider High Fly in the mix, which is a free 30% to everything, just as some free examples, that mobility will go up to almost 1.2k, so he most certainly will be packing the speed, and his melee resist will be going up significantly to a little over 800, which is not necessarily terrible, but far better than where he was before. So it kind of emphasizes the point that Zeora-D in this case is going to be a speed type build more than a bulk type build. All this being said though, as a pure set score, I honestly have to rate Zeora-D a relatively solid 7 out of 10 across the board. While as a speed build, you do kind of have to be careful with his damage reduction, his armor isn't too shabby either at a 3779 for the head, 3419 for the right arm, 3600 for the left, and just over 3600 for the legs. He can hold his own fairly well, but if he starts taking damage, he's going to be really hurting. Now, when he's not taking damage, he's got several different kinds of abilities at his disposal he can use. Between free turn skipping when attacking foes in heating, banning meta force or meta change when attacking foes in cool, pulling enemies closer to him if they're in their cooldown phase, or Hyper Tornado just for basically stalling them and following up with something behind it. He can hold his own fairly well with a very wide range of abilities at his disposal. But it is also worth noting that the High Fly weakness of extra weakness to gravity, it's going to hurt, but not necessarily as bad as it could, because he's only packing one heavy part. So even without the base modifier, it's not going to be hurting him too terribly. As mixed parts though, I do have to rate him just a little higher at a 7.5 out of 10. Given that you can find uses for Panic, Suction Blow, or Hyper Tornado relatively quickly, especially for Panic or Hyper Tornado, the legs with High Fly are definitely going to be the really big selling point here, as a biped leg with a base mobility over 900 already before it kicks in is going to really be hard to ignore if you're looking for something fast and relatively speedy to guarantee that your fighter, nuker, shielder, or whatever can make use of its skills relatively quickly without getting too far chugged behind.